They glitter beneath museum glass and sparkle in wedding rings, symbols of love, luxury, and forever. But some stones are forged not in romance, but in suffering. Under polished surfaces lie rivers of blood, whispers of screams swallowed by dust, and histories buried in earth dark as night. These are diamonds born not from nature's violence alone, but from human greed, torn from the ground through labor, war, and empire. In quiet boardrooms and royal courts, they were traded as wealth. In jungles and riverbeds, they were paid for with limbs, lives, and shattered futures. And though the world calls them precious, they're stained with stories most will never hear. This is the empire built on blood. This is the story of diamonds that killed. Don't forget to subscribe for more dark history stories like this. Long before headlines called them blood diamonds, the hunger for precious stones already beat in the heart of kings and conquerors. In the courts of Europe, diamonds were not jewels. They were status, sovereignty, and power made solid. Monarchs believed they were gifts of the divine, stones capable of reflecting eternity. But eternity has a cost, and it is never paid by the wealthy. Across oceans in Africa's vast interior, kingdoms flourished, trade routes pulsed with gold, ivory, and knowledge. People lived in rhythms carved over centuries. Farmers guiding cattle across savanna plains, tribes honoring ancestral spirits, rulers presiding over empires rich in culture and dignity. They did not know that far away, powerful men traced maps with greedy fingers and whispered dreams of a new frontier to plunder. And then, in the late 1800s, a glitter in the soil changed everything. A boy playing on the banks of the Orange River found a stone unlike anything in the ground around him. Pure, sharp, mesmerizing. When men in distant cities examined it, they recognized its true nature. A diamond. Word spread with the force of prophecy. South Africa held treasure beneath its skin. What followed was not discovery. It was invasion. A storm disguised as progress. Europe descended like vultures. Prospectors swarmed. Merchants arrived with ledgers and rifles. Colonizers drew invisible lines across land that was not theirs to claim. Where once chiefs and community elders ruled, men in suits now carried papers declaring ownership backed by the barrel of a gun. And in the chaos, a name rose, a man who would turn shining stones into empire, Cecil John Rhodes. He arrived not as a soldier, but as ambition wrapped in European arrogance. Rhodes did not seek diamonds alone. He sought domination, a world where British power covered Africa like a crown. He believed some races were born to rule and others to serve, and diamonds would fund his destiny. Townships swelled with desperate workers forced from their lands. Mines sank deep into the earth, tunnels carved by trembling hands under torchlight. Dust choked lungs until breath rattled like tin. Whips cracked in the humid dark. Guards patrolled with rifles, not to protect against threats, but to ensure nobody fled with a fragment of stolen brilliance. Above ground, elites toasted champagne. Below ground, men died nameless. There were no unions, no safety, no mercy. When a tunnel collapsed, the earth swallowed them whole. Their families never saw bodies, only the dust that marked where dreams were buried. And Rhodes grew richer. He consolidated mines, crushed rivals, bribed leaders, and manipulated laws until only one name mattered in the diamond world: De Beers. He created not a company, but a kingdom, one that would choke supply, shape prices, and manufacture desire itself by whispering a lie that would echo through generations. A diamond is forever. But what lasts forever is not the jewel. It is the suffering of the hands that dug it. As diamonds poured into European vaults, African land drained of blood. Communities fractured. Cultures strained under colonial boots. Men toiled in pits. Women scavenged scraps. Children watched futures shrink like dying embers. The empire had begun, but this was only the first cut. Because diamonds do not just build wealth. They build wars. They came in waves, not with weapons, but with empty stomachs and broken promises. Men from villages far across plains and rivers, driven by drought, forced by taxes the colonizers invented, or seized by recruiters who called themselves officials but behaved like hunters. Some marched willingly, chasing rumors of silver coins and steady meals. Others marched in chains. No one came back the same. The mines devoured them. Mouths of the earth widened like hungry beasts, swallowing bodies by the thousands. Inside, there was darkness thick enough to taste and heat that clung like fever. The walls creaked and groaned, as though the earth itself protested the violence done to it. Every breath carried dust, fine as powder, deadly as blade. They called it miner's cough, a simple name for slow death. Lungs turned to stone long before the diamonds did. The overseers marched along catwalks above, boots crunching dirt mixed with sweat, blood, and falling grit. Whistles cut the air. Commands echoed. And deep below, a maze of tunnels twisted into the unknown, supported by wooden beams that moaned like dying trees. Men swung hammers with blistered hands until skin peeled. Others crawled through shafts barely wider than their ribs, dragging baskets strapped to their backs like beasts of burden. Down there, time blurred. Day and night did not exist. Only labor and silence and the drums of a racing heart. Every so often, the ground shook without warning. A rumble, a crack, then screams, crushed bones under tons of rock, shouts drowned by collapsing tunnels. The earth closed like a fist. Rescue was not a priority. The mine did not stop for the dead. Above ground, white managers logged production figures with gold ink pens. They spoke in polished accents about economic growth and civilizing missions. But no amount of elegant language could hide the truth. They were building an empire out of human misery. At day's end, the miners emerged in single file, thin silhouettes against the fading orange dusk. They were stripped and searched. Every pocket, every fold of skin, every strand of hair inspected for the possibility of a hidden stone. Men were forced to squat naked, humiliated under torchlight, while guards watched with suspicion sharpened by greed. Because in this world, one diamond in the hands of a worker was theft. But diamonds in the vaults of the powerful were progress. The punishment for smuggling, even a sliver? Beatings, imprisonment, mutilation. Sometimes death, quiet, undocumented, forgotten. Night brought no relief. Miners slept on straw mats, packed so tightly that bodies formed a single trembling mass of exhaustion. Food was scarce. A handful of maize, maybe a strip of salted meat. Disease spread in whispers. Fever, dysentery, infection. A man could fall asleep beside a friend and wake beside a corpse. And yet, every morning, they returned to the pits. Not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. Their lands had been taken. Their chiefs forced in a treaty signed at gunpoint. Taxes chained to their necks. And families waited at home, hoping the fathers and sons who vanished into the mines would return with wages and breath still inside them. But diamonds weren't only wealth, they were power. And power attracts competition. Soon the soil ran not just with sweat and tears, but with blood spilled by soldiers and rebels, mercenaries and kings. The mine was never just a mine. It was a battlefield disguised as ambition. At night, in hushed tones, exhausted men whispered legends to keep their spirits alive, stories of ancestral warriors, of spirits that roamed the earth long before colonizers came. They whispered names of lost brothers and vows of revenge. They dreamed of breaking chains, of reclaiming land, of a world where the earth's riches did not demand their bones as payment. But day always returned, and so did the whip, and the drills, and the suffocating dark. Above ground, the diamond empire polished its image like the stones it sold, shining, glittering, pure. They advertised romance. They spoke of beauty. They wrapped love around something born in suffering. The world believed them. But there is a truth that diamond magnates never carve into velvet boxes or gold rings. For every stone that sparkles in light, countless others were washed in shadows. And in the quiet between heartbeats, the earth still remembers the cries of those who dug too deep to ever climb out again. And while the mines fed the empire, another storm gathered beyond their fences. A storm not forged in greed alone, but in the violent hunger for control, for land, for absolute dominance. Because diamonds did not just build fortunes, they built armies. And soon, the world would discover that when men fight over stones, nations burn. The empire of diamonds did not stop at the edge of the mine. It spread like infection, from the dark tunnels of Kimberley to the halls of European power. The soil was bleeding, and the world could smell profit. When greed learns to wear a uniform, history begins to count its dead. Cecil Rhodes had turned dirt into dynasty, but his dream was larger than stones. He wanted a British chain stretching from Cape to Cairo. One empire, one ruler, one flag. And to build it, he needed control of land, labor, and loyalty. So the diamond industry became a machine of conquest. Soldiers marched not for country, but for shareholders. The rifle followed the pickaxe. The cross followed the contract. Villages that resisted were burned. Chiefs who refused to sign treaties were removed. Men were conscripted into company regiments. Soldiers paid in rations, fighting wars that were never theirs. And as the empire expanded northward, blood mixed with dust across lands that had never known such horror. Every diamond shipped to London carried a whisper of the violence it funded. The empire called it progress. The people called it something else, the death season. But greed never works alone. It recruits kings, corporations, and silence. When the 20th century dawned, new players entered the game. Private armies, politicians, and foreign investors who saw Africa not as a continent, but as a treasure chest waiting to be picked. Diamonds became more than wealth. They became weapons. They paid for guns, fuel, coups, and campaigns. And wherever they glimmered, the shadow of war followed. In the Congo, Belgium's King Leopold built his private hell. His soldiers chopped hands to count corpses, slaughtered villages to meet quotas, and filled riverbanks with the bodies of men who could not gather enough rubber and minerals. Diamonds glittered in royal crowns, even as blood soaked African soil. The world knew. The world looked away. Decades later, as European empires collapsed, the violence did not fade. It only changed owners. The Cold War brought new masters, new guns, new excuses. Former colonies were handed flags, but denied freedom. Their governments carved and corrupted by men who learned empire's tricks too well. Diamonds financed revolutions and counter-revolutions, rebels and regimes. Presidents smiled for cameras while smuggling stones through military airports. Ministers preached democracy while funding death. By the 1990s, a single diamond could buy a village's destruction. In Sierra Leone, child soldiers carried rifles longer than their arms. Rebel groups forced men to dig at gunpoint, severing the hands of those who tried to flee. A grotesque punishment meant to ensure no one else could work or fight again. Rivers ran red. Camps filled with survivors missing fingers, arms, hope. They called them blood diamonds, not as metaphor, but as fact. Meanwhile, far away, another kind of battle was being waged, not in jungles or deserts, but in boardrooms and advertisements. The empire of image, the global illusion. De Beers had mastered it. When the world began asking why diamonds mattered, the company did not defend the mines. It rewrote emotion itself. "A diamond is forever," the slogan whispered. It wasn't a campaign, it was hypnosis. The idea was simple. Convince people that love must be proven by a stone, and no one would ever question where that stone came from. Hollywood joined the chorus. Magazine spreads glowed with white gowns and perfect smiles. The diamond became purity itself, its bloody past scrubbed clean under soft light and glossy print. Men were told that without it, their love meant nothing. Women were told that with it, they were priceless. The entire world bought into a fantasy sold by an empire that once bought and sold men themselves. Behind the fantasy, the machine never stopped turning. In Angola, the UNITA rebels traded diamonds for weapons. In Liberia, Charles Taylor funded civil war through smuggling networks. In the Congo, militias fought over mines while civilians were slaughtered by the thousands. Each stone slipped quietly into the global market, mixed with legitimate gems, recut and polished until no, I could tell the difference. A diamond, after all, remembers nothing. But the earth remembers everything. Governments try to intervene, treaties, embargoes, committees. In 2003, the Kimberley process was created to certify conflict-free diamonds. It was a noble idea, but noble ideas rarely survive contact with money. The paperwork could be forged, the routes could be hidden, and the blood kept flowing, only now beneath layers of bureaucratic dust. Meanwhile, consumers in New York, London, and Paris continued buying dreams. Engagement rings, anniversary gifts, symbols of forever, forged by centuries of pain. The empire smiled, the system worked, and the world continued to sparkle, blind to the cries buried beneath the glitter. But truth has a way of resurfacing, like a body the river refuses to keep. In documentaries, in survivor testimonies, in the haunted eyes of miners whose lives were spent in the dark, the stories began to leak through. People started asking, how many lives does one diamond cost? The answer was silence, because the truth was too ugly to fit into a slogan. And even as some nations rebuilt, the scars remained. The soil still hides bones. The rivers still carry stories. Generations born after the wars still feel the echo, not as gunfire, but as poverty, displacement, and loss that never had name. In some places, the same corporations remain, mining with new logos, new promises, new lies. The color of the advertisements has changed. The greed has not. Diamonds built empires. They funded wars. They crowned monarchs and ruined nations. They turned love into commerce and murder into business. They taught the world how to value beauty without conscience. And still, we buy them. Each glittering stone a silent heirloom of human suffering, polished by hands that never got to rest. History will remember them not for their sparkle, but for the darkness they reflect when the lights go out. The world loves a beautiful lie, especially when it sparkles. As the 20th century marched forward, humanity made vows of progress. Nations built skyscrapers, launched rockets, cured diseases. Technology advanced. Empires shifted. Yet behind velvet storefronts where diamonds sat glowing under warm lights, the past did not vanish. It simply learned how to dress itself in elegance. Diamonds became the crown jewels of innocence. They glittered in royal weddings, twinkled on Hollywood red carpets, and shone on trembling hands during proposals whispered under candlelight. Everywhere, they symbolized purity, even as they hid sins older than the soil they were ripped from. The deception was masterful. A love story scripted not by poets, but by marketers sharpening their pencils like knives. Commercials didn't sell stones. They sold belonging, status, devotion. A man was told he wasn't worthy unless he paid months of wages for a ring. A woman was taught her value could shine on her finger. Tell a lie long enough, wrap it in romance, and it becomes a tradition. Culture doesn't resist, culture obeys. But in the shadows of these glittering fantasies, the truth never rested. In dusty African villages, boys still disappeared into mines. In jungles torn open like wounds, rebels still traded stones for rifles. Families still mourned sons who never came home. And far from the cameras, executives counted profits. Clean hands, clean suits, clean smiles. While somewhere out of sight, another mine's shaft collapsed. Yet now, the world was watching. Or at least it began to suspect. Whispers traveled faster than they used to. Survivors spoke. Journalists dug. Documentaries surfaced like restless spirits rising from shallow graves. The words blood diamond entered public consciousness like poison in water. And the industry panicked. They needed a shield, something shiny enough to distract the world again. So they crafted one. In boardrooms lined with mahogany and polished stone, they developed a new narrative, one as strategic as any military campaign, conflict-free. Two words that would wash blood away with bureaucratic ink. The Kimberley process was born, a certification program, global in ambition, promising that every diamond stamped by its rules was clean, ethical, pure. Papers were printed, seals applied, Politicians shook hands. Reporters smiled. The public breathed easier. But paper does not stop bullets. Documents do not dig mines. Stamps do not erase scars. And in forgotten corners of continents, smugglers laughed. Dishonest officials pocketed bribes. Stones flowed through back channels like water through cracked earth. Conflict-free became a comfort phrase, soothing, convenient, often meaningless. It didn't remove blood. It simply rebranded it. Meanwhile, marketing tightened its grip. Engagement rings became an expectation. Graduations, anniversaries, birthdays, all occasions to decorate life with glitter carved from death. The world kept buying. Jewelers kept smiling. Love stories kept shining under store lights. Not because diamonds are rare, but because the myth said they were. A myth engineered by those who profited most. A myth polished until truth disappeared beneath brilliance. And still, in the dark, the old realities lingered. In West Africa, militia checkpoints still searched for boys strong enough to carry rifles and shovels. In the Congo, rivers still ran through territories guarded by men with guns and nothing to lose. In forgotten camps, mothers still prayed over children coughing from dust lungs should never breathe. The mines had changed hands, but not ethics. Flags changed color. Greed did not. Yet something else was happening too. A subtle shift, slow as sunrise. The children of those who once died in silence began to speak. Writers, activists, filmmakers, leaders. They told the truth that marketing could not drown, that diamonds do not represent love. They represent appetite, that the world's romance was someone else's nightmare. And the industry, sensing danger, adjusted once more. They spoke of responsible sourcing, community development, ethical mining. Brochures showed smiling African children in school uniforms, glossy photographs staged like absolution. They promised development projects, job creation, shared futures. Yet in many places, the old patterns lived on. Poverty beside wealth, mud beside marble, broken bodies beside polished gems. A new market emerged, lab-grown diamonds. Flawless, clean, identical. A threat to the old empire. And suddenly, the companies that once swore diamonds were eternal insisted synthetic stones were fake. The same voices that once fabricated value now try to protect it. They spoke of purity and tradition as they always had, because to lose the story was to lose everything. But even now, the narrative frays. More people ask questions. More couples choose ethics over sparkle. And as the truth spreads, something remarkable becomes clear. The empire was never built on love. It was built on belief. Belief that a small rock could hold meaning. Belief enforced by violence, sustained by myths, sold with perfection. What happens when belief breaks? Perhaps diamonds will lose their hold. Perhaps they will stay symbols forever, their history buried beneath marketing and memory. Humans cling to beauty, even when beauty hides wounds. But one fact remains as sharp as a cut stone. Behind every diamond is a story. Some stories glitter, most scream, and no matter how hard the industry polishes, there are things light cannot reach, things buried deep in tunnels, in rivers, in bones, things whispered by miners to their sons, by widows to their daughters, by history to the brave who listen. Because the truth is patient. It waits beneath the earth like a stone untouched, biding its time. And one day, even the brightest jewel cannot blind the world from what it chose not to see. Today, diamonds gleam brighter than ever. They glimmer on red carpets, in royal ceremonies, in the trembling hands of lovers kneeling before one another. The world has wrapped them in poetry again, words like purity, eternity, commitment. But beneath every promise, beneath every sparkle, lies a silence that hums like a buried heartbeat. Because the empire never truly ended. It simply learned how to hide. In boardrooms overlooking modern skylines, the new masters of the diamond world sit behind glass. Calm, composed, untouchable. Their companies rebranded, their advertisements cleaner, their slogans softer. They talk about sustainability, fair trade, responsibility. Yet the routes that carry their stones still wind through the same forgotten places, through borderlands where guns rule, through jungles where the law travels on rumor, through villages where dust still settles on graves that have no names. In the Congo, in Sierra Leone, in Angola, the same old stories replay like echoes trapped in stone. Minds still open at dawn to lines of men and boys, their bodies thin, their tools blunt, their hopes fragile. The diamonds they find no longer fund civil wars on the same scale, but they still feed smaller conflicts, local warlords, dishonest officials. For every carat cut in Antwerp or Dubai, there's a fingerprint of someone whose name will never reach a certificate. Technology was supposed to change this. Satellites tracking supply chains, scanners verifying origins. But greed is smarter than regulation. Paper trails can be forged. Digital systems can be bribed. And truth, as always, can be buried deeper than any mine. Meanwhile, a new kind of battle emerged. One fought not with bullets, but with image. Corporations wage wars over perception. They hire influencers, sponsor charity events, fund documentaries that speak just loud enough to sound good, but never loud enough to disrupt the money. They sell redemption the same way they once sold romance. Conflict-free, ethically sourced, community-driven, words polished smooth, perfect for a billboard, meaningless in the dirt. And the world, hungry for innocence, buys it all again. A young couple in Los Angeles, in Paris, in Lagos. They walk into a store, blinded by lights that make every stone look like a captured star. The sales pitch is gentle, practiced, sincere. They are told that what they are buying is pure, that it represents forever, that it is love crystallized. The man smiles, the woman gasps, the ring slips onto her finger, and the circle is complete. The story has worked again. But somewhere, far from that quiet luxury, the earth still moans under the weight of drills. The dust still chokes lungs. The cycle still turns. Not as loud as before, not as visible, but alive, patient, persistent. And yet, in this repetition, there's also defiance. The descendants of miners, of rebels, of a nameless dead are no longer silent. Their voices rise from classrooms, newsrooms, and digital platforms. They document the past, name the forgotten, expose the corporations. They teach that beauty can exist without exploitation. That love does not need blood to shine. That eternity is not measured in carats, but in conscience. Slowly, the world begins to listen. Some choose lab-grown stones, born not from war, but from science. Others wear rings passed down through generations, choosing memory over new purchase. Some reject the industry entirely, seeing the illusion for what it is, a business built on desire, not destiny. The empire trembles just a little, because what built it was never just wealth, it was belief. And belief, once broken, is difficult to restore. Still, the machine fights back. New marketing campaigns, new celebrity endorsements, new stories of hope. They speak of development, of mining communities being lifted from poverty. Some of it is true. Much of it is theater. For every mine rehabilitated, another is quietly opened beyond the spotlight. For every worker photographed smiling, another dies beneath a collapsed shaft unseen. The world spins forward, pretending the past is over. But the past is never over in places where the ground remembers. In the empty tunnels of South Africa, the air still carries ghosts. In the riverbeds of Sierra Leone, mothers still search the mud for stones that might feed their children. In the streets of Antwerp, brokers still trade billions in gems without asking too many questions. And in the vaults of nations, the old diamonds still sleep. Those stolen long ago, shining quietly in crowns and museums, the property of history's victors. The blood that bought them may have dried, but the stain remains. Because every empire leaves residue, on land, on hands, on hearts. The Diamond Empire is no different. It was built on conquest and kept alive by consumption. It fed on both cruelty and romance. knowing that humanity can justify almost anything if it glitters enough. But maybe the future will be different. Maybe the next generation will look at these stones and see not beauty, but warning. Maybe one day, the symbol of love will no longer come from the ruins of pain. For now, though, the world keeps buying, keeps wearing, keeps forgetting. The diamonds still shine. The lies still sell. And the ghosts still whisper beneath the glittering surface of the empire they built. History watches, patient as ever, waiting for the day when truth finally costs more than luxury. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button, share this story, and subscribe to the channel for more hidden histories and untold truths.